All right, welcome back. It really feels like the future just decided to skip a few chapters, doesn't it? I mean, this past week wasn't just another small step forward in automation and AI. No, it was a full-blown leap. We are officially moving from just theory to stuff that's tangible, that's walking, and yeah, even flying. So let's just get right into it.
It's funny, right? Robots used to be the punchline. But this week, they totally rewrote the script. And they did it while we were all, still making jokes about these clunky, slow-moving machines. But suddenly, that whir of servos, that's the new background noise of progress. And believe me, this week, the volume got cranked all the way up to 11.
So what exactly happened? What sparked all this? Seriously, it's like every single corner of the tech world got together and coordinated this one single massive reveal. I mean, we had robo-taxis starting to claim the streets, flying cars staking out the skies. The announcements just would not stop coming.
And leading the charge? That was China's XPeng. And look, they didn't just announce one little thing. No, they dropped a whole menagerie of mechs on us. We're talking brand new robotaxis that barely even need a human in the loop. Not one, but two different flying cars. And a second-gen humanoid robot they're calling Iron. So yeah, this wasn't just some product launch. This was a shot across the bow. This was a declaration that Tesla's big ambitions for a robot army, well, they now have a very, very serious and well-funded competitor to worry about.
But here's the thing. XPeng isn't the only player in this race. Not by a long shot. Their big reveal, it's really just one piece of a much larger story that's unfolding. The sprint to build the first truly viable humanoid robot is getting seriously crowded. And what's fascinating is how different everyone's strategies are. So let's take a look at who's lining up at the starting line.
Okay, so what really jumps out when you look at this is just how wildly different the game plans are. You've got XPeng, right? They're not just building a robot. They're building an entire mobility platform around it, tying it into their cars, their future aircraft, the whole shebang. Now, contrast that with Tesla's, grand, almost sci-fi vision of a robot army. Then you've got the pragmatists. I'm talking Amazon and its partners like Figure. They are laser-focused on one single goal, dominating industrial logistics. Warehouses, basically. And of course, you can't forget Apple. They're playing the long game, quietly figuring out how a robot becomes the next must-have gadget in their massive ecosystem. And all this time, Unitree, they're already out there, in the field, with robots that are just breathtakingly agile.
And this is just a perfect illustration of the difference between real, solid engineering and pure marketing hype. It's almost comical. On one side, you've got China's Unitree H2, a machine that has 4 gold medals, by the way, and it moves with this incredible, almost eerie grace. And on the other side, you have Russia's A-Doll. It makes this big, dramatic entrance to the theme from Rocky, waves to the crowd, and then promptly faceplants. It's such a stark reminder that building these things takes more than just deep pockets. You need even deeper code.
And speaking of deep pockets, let's circle back to Apple for a second. Morgan Stanley just put out a projection for what Apple's robotics division could be worth by the year 2040. And the number they landed on? Get this. $133 billion in annual revenue. I mean, to put that into perspective for you, that is roughly the size of their entire App Store business today.
And this is where we get to Apple's secret weapon. And spoiler alert, it's not really the robot itself. It's the fact that they can plug that robot into an existing ecosystem of, 2.3 billion devices? Just imagine a future where, Hey Siri evolves into, Hey Siri, can you go grab me a coffee from the kitchen? That's seamless integration. That's stickiness that keeps you locked into their world. That is the real prize they're after. Okay, so we've seen all this impressive hardware, right? The bots, the cars, the humanoids, but you gotta remember, all this polished metal is just a shell. It's nothing without the brain. So now, let's pop the hood and take a look at the incredible engine of intelligence that's actually making all of this happen.
But this all raises a really big question, doesn't it? Why is all of this happening right now? What was the switch that got flipped to turn all this science fiction into an actual hardware roadmap? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. It comes down to sheer brute force computational power.
And where is the command center for this emerging robot army, you ask? Well, it's being built by Google. They just pulled the curtain back on what they're calling an AI hypercomputer, a totally new generation of infrastructure that's designed for one thing and one thing only, to power this AI revolution.
And just to give you a sense of this scale we're talking about here, a single one of Google's new supercomputers can hit 42.5 exaflops. Now, an exaflop, that's a quintillion calculations per second. It's a number so ridiculously big it's hard to even wrap your head around. And here's the kicker.
This is 4 times more powerful than their model from just last year. The pace of advancement it's just staggering.
And look, this isn't just about one new fancy chip. Google has built an entire ecosystem around it. At the very core, yeah, you've got these new liquid-cooled processors. But they're being supported by way more efficient virtual machines and even direct bare metal access for developers, which gives them this unprecedented level of control. They're even planning for solar-powered clusters up in orbit. It is a complete, top-to-bottom system designed for just one purpose: to feed AI's absolutely insatiable hunger for power.
And this right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the matter. See, for years, the biggest challenge in AI was training. You can think of it like studying for a huge test, just feeding a model endless textbooks and data day in and day out. But now, the game is completely shifted to inference. That's the test itself. It's using all that knowledge you crammed to make split-second decisions out in the real world. It's what lets a robot navigate a cluttered office or a robotaxi slam on the brakes for a pedestrian. And this new hypercomputer, it's built for the test, not just the studying. And that, my friends, is the power play.
Okay, so we've got the bots, and we've got the massive brains powering them. So what's next? Well, now we have to connect those dots to the real world. Because this technology isn't just being developed in some sterile lab somewhere, it's already out there, reshaping entire industries. And, you guessed it, jobs.
Just take a look at this example from a German grocery chain called Rewe. They installed a robotic kitchen that can plate 120 meals an hour. It magnetically swaps its own grippers for different tasks, it runs its own self-wash cycle, and it never, ever calls in sick. And the result? A 95% drop in their labor needs. This isn't some forecast for the future. This is happening right now.
And believe me, that automated kitchen is not some isolated case. It is a tiny snapshot of a much, much larger trend. So far this year alone, we have seen over 1.1 million job cuts announced. That is a staggering 65% increase from the exact same period just last year.
So let's break down the reasons why. If you look at this chart, sure, general cost cutting is still the #1 driver. That's kind of what you'd expect. But look at that second bar, AI-driven restructuring. This is no longer just a footnote in the reports. It was the reason behind more than 31,000 layoffs in October alone. It is now a major and rapidly growing force in the labor market.
So, what does all this mean for you, for me, for us? Well, here's a piece of advice. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, maybe, but it's also very, very real for this new job market. You might want to start sprinkling the phrase, collaborates with robots, onto your resume. Seriously, highlighting your ability to work with automated systems is quickly becoming an absolutely critical skill.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As all these incredibly complex systems get woven deeper and deeper into the very fabric of our economy, maybe the most valuable skill isn't figuring out how to compete against them. Maybe it's about understanding how they work and, more importantly, knowing exactly what to do when they inevitably break. Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this one.